you know who made it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the See Me, Be Me podcast. Our guest today is an extraordinary individual who has made significant contributions to social mobility and youth empowerment. He is the founder and CEO of Youth Leads UK, an organisation dedicated to supporting and inspiring young people from predominantly disadvantaged backgrounds to achieve their true potential. His dedication to social impact doesn't just stop there. He also serves as a social mobility commissioner for the UK government, where he works tirelessly to create opportunities for all. In 2019, he was awarded an MBE for his services to young people and the community in Greater Manchester, a testament to his remarkable achievements and commitment. He's been a trustee for multiple organisations in the Northwest and has received numerous accolades for his outstanding work. Please join me in welcoming the inspiring and dynamic Saeed Atcha. Welcome to the podcast, Saeed.
Thank you, Niall. That was quite an introduction. I'm not sure I've been called dynamic before either, so I might have to add that to my official biography.
So, Saeed, really remarkable achievements that you've achieved today. But I'm kind of interested to just take it back to the beginning and hear about your background growing up. So, I believe you were born and raised in Bolton.
Yeah, that's right. I was born and raised in Bolton, and I still live in Bolton, and I think Bolton will always be home. I was a young person that had quite an interesting background, an interesting childhood. So I grew up in and out of the care system for a large part of my life, where I was in foster care to begin with, then bit of residential care, and then ended up in kinship care with my fantastic family, my grandma, my uncle and my auntie. And so, yeah, I went to school in Bolton. I then left Bolton, although still lived there, to college, where I went to near a town of Bury. And then university, I studied at Manchester Metropolitan, decided to go back there to do a master's, and my organisation, Youth Leads UK, is headquartered in Salford. So a real mix of Greater Manchester is where I work and live.
So I believe you set up Youth Leads when you were 15.
Yeah.
Am I correct? As a charity. So where did your inspiration come from growing up that you wanted to become an advocate for social mobility, or even, to go down the route of entrepreneurship? Were there key moments or influences in your life growing up that made you want to go down that route?
So I've always been an inquisitive person. I was always interested in media. So I would take the charts on the weekend. I would visit the local radio station when they were in town doing an event. I was always interested in journalism. I was always watching the news at 10 with Trevor McDonald. It was that was me growing up. I wanted to ask the questions. I wanted to know more. Some would probably say I was the annoying kid that always asked why. And growing up with in the care system, you tend to grow up quicker because you have to. You're kind of forced to deal with things in life that your non-care counterparts may never have to deal with, or deal with a lot older. So I think you can mature slightly in certain areas. And that's why for me, it wasn't remarkable what I did. It was just something I wanted to do. And growing up, I always had a lot of decisions made for me, and I would always ask why. Why can't I have my say? That kind of thing. And in 2011, we had the riots in the UK that we saw in our capital city. We saw here in Manchester, in Salford, in Birmingham. And the day after those riots, or the days after those riots, I went into the corner shop and saw all the newspaper headlines. I was a paper boy. That was my first proper job. So I went into to see all the papers, and they were describing young people, ethnic minority young people, as feral animals, as scum, as yobs, as evil, as threatening. And it struck me. Those headlines struck a chord with me that day. And I just thought we've got to do something, and it needs to be young people leading that change. Because I saw those headlines as a personal attack on me. I was a young person that, was on the peripheries of criminal justice teams. I was running drugs, all the things that typically the stereotypes about care experienced young people probably was the majority of them. But my real vocation was asking the question, why? And so I had the idea, seeing those headlines, that young people need to do something. And that something for us was to produce a youth-led magazine, to be part of the press. And that wave of entrepreneurialism came from a very early Dragon's Den episode where somebody had pitched what's called a freemium. It's a free premium magazine funded by adverts. So I had this in the back of my mind because I'd watched Dragon's Den that weekend. And, the Dragons absolutely picked apart the idea of a freemium magazine. So I knew what I needed to do for it to be pitch ready. And I got a group of friends together to form the team, and we wrote to businesses, funders, and we said, look, this is what we want to do. We want it funded by adverts, etc., etc. And less than 12 months later, our very first edition of the magazine, this was now 2012. It was a big Olympics year. For Bolton in particular, we had Amir Khan carry the torch. We had a big Olympic ceremony. So we knew we wanted him on the front cover, as someone from an ethnic minority background who's done an incredible amount for the town and for young people. And so our first edition was printed in 2012. It went out to schools, and really we just kind of grew from there. And then a few years later, I said to my colleagues and we were all volunteers, I said, there's something in this, what we've done. Like, we have all developed skills. We never knew how to do a budget. We never knew how to be a journalist. We didn't know how to interview people. We knew nothing about magazine design. But all of these things that we've done, there's all the skills that we've developed. And so we decided at that point, actually, we need to make this more of a permanent thing, that young people can come onto a program where they develop all of these different skills that will help them with their the academic side of things. Because I was on course not to pass all of my GCSEs, but actually from doing the magazine and writing budgets and understanding finances, I passed my maths with a grade B. And I wasn't expecting to get anything near that. So I knew the benefit that I was getting from doing what we did, and said, it can't just be us. We've got to get other young people involved in this. And so we became a charity in 2014, where our leadership program still runs today, where young people come onto the program for 3 months, develop all of those skills, deliver their own social action project, and produce a magazine, and also have 4 or 5 touch points with employers as part of that program, so that they get a sense of the world, where they can work, what skills they might need. And they've actually got something physical, a printed magazine, that they can take to a job interview and say, look, this is what I'm proud of. This is what I've done. And it's not just young people who are interested in literacy. It could be photography, it could be design, we even have a fashion shoot in the magazine. So it's not just social issues. We've written about Taylor Swift's million boyfriends. There's all sorts of things that we've put in the magazine. So it's not just a kind of social justice magazine or anything like that. It's what young people want, and that's the beauty of what we do. It's all youth led.
Now, one of the things that is a challenge even in our line of work is that, and the reason why what we set up the See Me Be Me podcast, is that for a lot of young people, trying to inspire and infuse them to go down different career paths into areas or industries that are typically have not got a lot of representation, or people that look like them. How do you go about inspiring and taking on those challenges to try and push those young people and want them to basically uplift them and get them out of maybe their mindset or the areas that they're in, and want them to be, pursue different avenues and be ambitious?
Well, at my organisation, that's all we exist to do. So our leadership programme and all of our other programmes really are focused on showing young people that they have a place in the world. I hate people who say and set up projects and say we're giving young people a voice. How rude and offensive is that? You're not giving them a voice. They have a voice. You might help them amplify it. You might help them get their voices heard, but do not think for 1 second you are giving a young person a voice. That offends me. You know, young people have a voice, and it's about how we support them to have the self-confidence to use that voice and use it with power and purpose. And that's what Youth Leads does. It supports those young people to know the place that they have in society. And that could be Prime Minister, that could be leading an organization, that could be a chief exec, it could be the next Nobel Peace Prize winner. You know, you're not just you know, people shouldn't be shoehorned into thinking, well, I'm just going to be an accountant. Not just going to be an accountant. Why can't you be the next chief executive of the accountancy firm? You know, I'm just going to be a doctor. Well, why can't you be England's chief medical officer? Inspiring the aspiration within those young people is massively important. How we do it, this whole podcast name, See Me, Be Me, you can't be what you can't see. We know that there is diversity at the top, not a lot of it, but there is diversity. So those people actually need to open their doors to younger people coming through. That's massively important. We need to see more youth representation in Parliament, and I'm really pleased that at the last general election, I think it's our largest number of under 30s ever elected. That's great. We need to continue with that. We need to get more young people from more diverse backgrounds through that route, and at local level as well. So standing as a youth MP or even as a local councillor, for example. And the more that we can push those that are already there to tell their stories, the better. One of the things that I do alongside, I mean, I did a list the other day of all the things that I do, and I'm going to count them. I know time is of the essence with one of these podcasts, but I am going to count exactly how many roles I've got, and I'll read them out for you. It's a bit like my CV. So I'm Chief Executive at Youth Leads. I'm a Deputy Lieutenant in Greater Manchester, so I represent the Lord Lieutenant, who is a personal representative of the King. I'm a Governor at Manchester Metropolitan University. I chair Inspiring Leaders, which is a partnership of 21 multi-academy trusts, which is about 260 schools in the East Midlands. I'm a strategic advisor to the UK version of the global PR firm We Communications. I'm a trustee of Generation UK and Ireland and Education and Employers. I'm a patron of Ormiston Families and Migrant Leaders. I'm an advisor to the Care Tech Foundation, an ambassador to One Young World, a cloth worker, and an associate fellow of the Royal Commonwealth Society. So I try as much as I can to be everywhere at once, because of how important it is for people coming through the ranks to see that it's possible. And it keeps me alive. It keeps me going. It injects me with drive, passion, positivity to be part of all of these groups, all of these networks, trying to make the world a better place. And goodness me, that's needed at the moment.
You know who made it.
So, in your opinion, Saeed, what are the most pressing issues facing social mobility, and how do we go about addressing it?
So I'm not going to be able to answer it exact, because I stepped down from the commission and wanted to give the new commission breathing space. So I don't have all the stats. I think more generally what can be done to level the playing field, and I think the current government is moving towards it. Young people should not be paid a different wage for doing the same job as people that are older than them. So I think removing that age pay gap is massively important. I think what companies are doing to address a social mobility pay gap is really interesting and one to look at, because it does exist. People from lower socioeconomic backgrounds often paid less than people from more privileged backgrounds, and I think addressing that gap is important. I think pushing apprenticeships and alternative routes to university to ensure that people have options. It's not just about pushing everybody down a certain route. And I would also say doing what we can to invest as early as possible in child development, because we look at the attainment gap of 5-year-olds you look at the attainment gap when when babies are born. If you're born into a more privileged background or you're born into a lower socioeconomic background, there's about already, just on the day of birth, about an 11-month gap in terms of your development, just because of the circumstances of your birth. By the time you get to that age 5, it's like 2.5 years in terms of the development gap. So investing as early as possible to support young parents, to support first-time parents, to support the literacy, numeracy, development of those toddlers and those children, to ensure that families are able to work, so that childcare is affordable. There's so many things that need to be done, but you've got to start really, really young to shift the dial, to move the needle on social mobility.
Excellent. And in terms of your vision for Youth Leads, where do you see Youth Leads in the next 5 years?
I feel like you need to join my board because they're asking me that question at the moment. The truth of the answer is we don't know. It's a very challenging time for charities at the moment, and so we are exploring what we may look like in the next few years, and then beyond that, I've got an idea of perhaps where we want to be, but Youth Leads isn't just me, so I don't want to give you an answer because we haven't agreed. The whole team hasn't agreed yet on where we want to be in 5 years' time. What I would suggest, or what I'm going to push for, is that we are the organisation that people rely upon for getting youth voices heard and acted upon by decision makers, and we become the agency for getting young professionals into decision-making roles in society.
Fantastic. It's definitely something that is heavily needed. I don't think there is a lot of people from our kind of backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, or even young people who've got decision-making roles within public services who can be there to voice our concerns, which is, it's definitely something that's needed. How do we make sure young people's voices are heard at that level and that government is listening to everybody?
I think that, but again, is journalism diverse as the population of this country? No. When at the very start of this podcast, I talked to you about watching Sir Trevor MacDonald on the news. Because he wasn't white, I thought I could be a news presenter. It's that whole thing, and how I think we're getting there. We're seeing more ethnic minority news presenters and journalists, but not at the top.
Not at the top, not in the decision-making roles. Yeah. No, it's not the decision-making roles, and it's something that we've been trying to champion as well. In Manchester City region alone, it's made up of close to 40% Black, Asian, minority ethnic, and in Greater Manchester, it's around about 27 to 29%. So almost a third should be represented, but they're not. So it's how do we? But we need to start getting some people from those backgrounds into those roles, and then young people can see those possibilities. Speaking of the young people that will be listening to this podcast, but also some of the adults who are, might be working in jobs and thinking, do you know what? I want to retrain, and maybe I want to get into advocacy as well, following similar footsteps to you, Saeed. So, or they may just want to even support. So, what advice and tips would you give to some of our listeners, and then for anybody wanting to support, how can they get involved or support your initiatives?
I mean, the easiest way is to just Google Youth Leads UK, and you'll find us, and our website should have all the information that you need. Alternatively, you can contact me or any of my colleagues on social media. What my advice would be, if people are interested in any kind of social action or social justice campaigning, to just do it. There's so many organizations out there that will support you to do things. We've got the Greater Manchester Citizens, which is an organization that also can help. Joining a political party, I'm not bothered which one. Joining a political party, being part of politics, standing for election, perhaps joining a board such as school governors or charity trustees. NHS governors also exist. So there's all sorts of these different roles that you could look at and apply to be part of. We have police and neighbourhood panels. So that's another thing that you could look at in Greater Manchester. And for young people, there are youth versions of all of these. So you could be a youth MP, a youth councillor, a youth mayor. You can be a young person on a policing panel. You can be a young trustee. You could join a youth board of an organisation as well. My advice would be just do it. Do not let imposter syndrome or anything like that stop you, because there are people who will support you, people who will rally around you and champion what you're doing and why you're doing it. And we're always here at Youth Leads as well to support.
Fantastic. And just because of podcast time, we're going to go straight into, we're going to uplift it a bit now and go into the fun bonus questions. So do you have any hidden talents or hobbies that most people wouldn't know about?
Hidden talents or hobbies? Gosh. A hobby that most people probably don't know. I actually do like to play games. So often
PC gamer, or are we console gamer?
You'll see me on my PS5.
Okay.
That's and it is GTA a lot of the time.
So it's starting riots on GTA 5. Is that what we're doing?
Yes, although I must admit sometimes I do just do closed session only. So yeah, a lot of people are surprised whenever I say that. So that's probably, I'd say, one of my hidden hobbies.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the CBBB podcast, Saeed. And again, this is your opportunity just to plug website, social channels, how people can follow you, get in contact. So the floor is yours. Take it away.
I'll be very quick. Just Google me or Google Youth Leads UK and you will find me on whichever platform. I am also now on TikTok. So you can find me on there. I promise no dances, but there is something coming called What's in My Bag.
Ooh, so what is this going to be, daily TikTok or weekly TikTok?
No, I can't commit to that. Can't commit to a daily TikTok, but yeah, let's see how I go.
Excellent. We'll all be keeping updates with that TikTok channel. I'm not on TikTok, but I'll have to get the company. Do I need to be on it?
You need to be on it.
I've tried to stay away.
So did I. I tried to stay away for so long, but my team convinced me, and now I'm on it. So if I'm on it, you've got to be on it.
Maybe you might just convince me to join.
I'll be your first follower.
For the last 2 years. Fine. I'm setting one up straight after this, saying you're going to be my first follower.
Not that it carries any weight, but
no, this has been a really great episode, fun podcast, and lots of useful sound bites and engaging conversation. So we hoped our audience, you liked this episode. And please stay tuned for the next episode of the See Me Be Me podcast. So Saeed, for now, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
You too. Take care.